Hello, everybody. Welcome to our first episode of In Lieu of Murder in the Know. What we're going to be doing with In the Know is we're going to be talking about, the most recent true crimes that you should kind of keep in your mind and keep, a watch out for as they're going on. So, stay tuned. Let's see what we got going on with these 6 stories for this last month. As many of you might be able to tell, I am flying this one solo. So, we're going to be talking about 6 different stories today that you should kind of keep in the midst of what's going on in the true crime world right now and what's to kind of come. So, with these 6 stories, we're just gonna kind of do like a brief overview of what's going on and why they're back in the news or just coming into the news and why we kind of want to follow what's going on. So, with little time to waste, let's jump right in. And we're going to go ahead and bring this to the stage. All right, y'all. So, the first person that we're going to talk about, many of you have probably seen in the news recently, and his name is Ryan Borgwart. I'm probably saying that wrong, so we're just going to call him Ryan, guys. All right, so this is the Wisconsin man that faked his own drowning this last summer, and he left his wife and 3 children, behind. This happened in Eastern Europe, and he is currently communicating with law enforcement in Eastern Europe. So what happened, for those that don't know, is on August 12th, Ryan had not been heard from since the previous day when he traveled like 50-ish miles from home to Green Lake to go kayaking. And his wife texted him and called him and could not find him anywhere. His vehicle and trailer were located near Green Lake. His kayak was discovered on the lake, overturned with a life jacket attached to it. That body of water was only like 200 feet deep, so it wasn't really, really deep. However, 200 feet is a lot of moving forward. There were a lot of weird things in this case, like his passport was lost or stolen like a month before he had disappeared. And there was a lot of speculation that he had drowned in order to go meet a lady that he was communicating with. So how everything kind of came into play is when Ryan had went to Green Lake and he overturned his kayak. He then rode like an electric bike that he stashed by the boat 70 miles through the night in Madison. And then he took a bus from that area to Detroit into Canada. He boarded a plane in Canada, and that's when he went over to England. He said that, he had faked his own death and fled because of personal matters, thinking it was the right thing to do. He took out a $375,000 life insurance policy for his family. And he thought like that would be enough to make them happy. But when he originally went missing, in Green Lake, missing in Green Lake. It was one of those things where it was like, and by the way, for those of you who don't know, Green Lake's in Milwaukee-ish area. Um, so that's where he went missing from in America. And then when they found him, it was in Eastern Europe, and they tracked him down. And once they tracked him down, they more or less were like, what's going on? He began communicating with authorities November 11th, which is how this kind of came back into the news, after they had tracked him down. The sheriff showed a video that Ryan had sent to the police the day before from an undisclosed location, and there haven't been charges filed just yet, but it doesn't mean that they're not coming. This is absolutely devastating for his family, who thought that something happened to him, and now they have to deal with what's going on, because Ryan hasn't even decided if he's going to return home, at his own free will, that is, because if the U.S. decides to press charges, Ryan won't have a choice. It cost at least $35,000 when they did the initial search from him out in Green Lake. And, he came back and said, well, he only expected the search to last for a couple of weeks, even though it lasted over a month. But his biggest problem in returning isn't his family, which it should be. His biggest problem in returning is how the community will react. Well, dude, newsflash, the community already knows. It's already out there. We're already judging you. And for whomever the Wisconsin woman is, I hope that whatever justice you seek, ma'am, you receive. Because, I wish a man would fake his death behind me. Because if his fake death don't kill him, I will. Oh, that was an admission of guilt. I'd say retract that, but I don't even know if I care. All right, y'all. So that's all we really got for Mr. Ryan at the moment. We're going to go ahead and push on to this wonderful guy right here. So, Mr. Carlos Humberto. I'm not even going to try to murder his last name. So, this happened in Colombia. A Colombian school bus driver has been arrested on rape and kidnapping charges after a girl that he allegedly snatched over a decade ago managed to escape. The victim, who went missing 12 years ago at the age of 7, escaped in February. She reported her alleged abuser, and he was arrested finally 2 weeks ago in Medellin. After being kidnapped, the girl had been moved, for years between addresses in Medellin and Bello. And according to her, she was raped multiple times on camera. The captor, Carlos, allegedly kept changing the girl's name to keep her out of sight and out of school. So this suspect is facing charges on kidnapping, raping a minor, producing child sexual material. And he had psychologically manipulated the girl into making her believe that this type of behavior was normal. So there is a lot of trauma there. And now when she was 16, she states that she confronted him, which prompted him to lock her in a house. And this is the house that she was able to escape from earlier this year. He did appear in court last week and, of course, denied all charges. And, of course, he is now requesting to be held for a psych eval. And he will be. However, he will not be released on bond during pretrial times. So that is the story on Carlos that we're going to continue to follow over the course of the next few months, as we find out exactly what happened to this poor girl and exactly what he's put her through, and how he was able to hide her captive that long for 12 years. So please, look for more information that comes out about this. Now, this next case we're going to go into, I do want to say, is a little intriguing to me. And I think that the reason it's intriguing to me is they're not releasing the name. So I'm calling this the case of Doctor Who. Because this German doctor, located in Berlin, has been going through a lot of things in the ringer lately, and still they have not released his name. So it makes me very suspicious that this might be a doctor who has like a renowned name for himself, or maybe has won some awards that we may need to take back, and I don't always cover cases outside of the US. However, when I was kind of looking into some of these stories over the last few days, I kept going back to this one. So let me give y'all a little bit of a breakdown. All right, so Doctor Who. So we're just going to call him Who whenever I talk about him, okay? So there's a Berlin doctor that is suspected of killing 8 elderly patients under his care and setting fire to some of their homes to cover up the crime. This was announced 2 Thursdays ago. The suspect is a 40-year-old whose identity has not been released, who has been working in palliative care and at-home nursing services. He was remanded in custody originally in August on suspicion of killing 4 women aged 72 to 94. However, the Berlin prosecutors have now linked him to 4 more deaths of men and women aged 61 to 83. Now, back in August, they said the man was being investigated for only 4 counts of manslaughter, 1 count of arson, and 3 counts of attempted arson. However, the prosecutors in Berlin now are saying that they are treating all the alleged killings as murder cases. And quoting, the accused appears to have no motive for killing the people other than the act of killing itself. Quote unquote, lust for murder. And I think that if you are going to try to follow this case, lust for murder is going to be the easiest way for you to find it to follow it. Because that is what they're referring to him over there as, is the lust for murder doctor. And again, that just reiterates back to the fact that he is literally only doing it for the killing. He was originally suspected of killing the 4 female patients in his care in the nursing service in Berlin between June 11th and July 24th. In one case, an 87-year-old woman was resuscitated after emergency services arrived, but died later in the hospital. In another, the suspect allegedly started a blaze, but the fire went out. When he realized this, he allegedly informed a relative of the woman and claimed that he was standing in front of her flat and that nobody was answering the doorbell. In the 4 new cases, which have dates, a wide range of dates. So from like June of 2022 to April of 2024, the suspect is accused of killing 2 men and 2 women in Berlin also. In one of these suspected cases, he's suspected of administering a cocktail of medications to a 70-year-old woman in her apartment and then starting her apartment on fire. The fire department was called by a neighbor. They were able to prevent the flames from spreading to the rest of the building. And then he's also accused of administering deadly medications to 2 men, aged 70 and 83, and a 61-year-old woman. The case recalls that the notorious German nurse Niels Hogan, who was sentenced back in 2019 to life in prison for murdering 85 patients in his care, that's what they keep referencing in charging this current Doctor Who. There are many cases of things like that, if you remember. Um, because, ooh, um, there are different reasons that people do stuff like that. Sometimes it'll be like they have a God complex where they think that they should choose who lives and dies. Other times it has been like an empathy thing, like they feel like once a person gets to a certain age or a certain health stature, they should be the ones to decide whether or not, that person is going to die. So, and there's even stories of when people would do this to their own family members because they felt like their family member, needed to be relieved of the pain. Um, Now, let me make this very clear for people that don't know this. If someone is in that much pain and agony, um, there is a medicine that they can give them that will allow them to pass away without it being illegal. And they have to agree to it, but if that's what they want, then that's what they'll do. And you have to remember that. And I know that because my father was administered that medication. To help him in his pain and suffering at his end of life. So there are options. You can't choose these things for people, though. Whether it's for life insurance or you inherit something or whatever you think your reasoning are, you do not get to choose who lives and dies. You don't. So we're gonna go ahead and move on from that story on to our next story. Mr. Timothy Woodard. All right, so Timothy Woodard, 26, was sentenced to 315 months in federal prison for his convictions relating to a string of hotel robberies committed in Memphis between October and December of 2022. Now, I actually remember when this happened. And I actually remember thinking, like, what do you mean all these hotels keep getting robbed? Because it was like, I want to say, let me double check. Yeah, it was over 20 hotels that were robbed. And I was like, why can't they catch this guy? It's not like he was super fast but let me kind of go over a little bit of details. So, like on October 19th, 2022, Woodard entered a hotel, pointed a handgun at a clerk, and demanded money from the cash drawer. The register was opened. He took approximately $400 and then forced the clerk to open the hotel safe by threatening to kill him. The clerk opened the safe, and Timothy got $300 from that. So his first robbery was a big old $700. December 19th of that same year, he entered another hotel with a semi-automatic handgun with 2 desk clerks in it demanding money. He got approximately $1,500 from the registers there. 2 hours later on the same day, he entered a third hotel with another person, jumped over the counter, pointed a semi-automatic handgun at the clerk, demanded the money from the register and the clerk's wallet. He took approximately $1,000 from the register and about $500 from the clerk. Then he got busted. December of 2023, a grand jury in Western Tennessee returned a 6-count indictment charging Woodard with 3 counts of robbery affecting commerce and 3 counts of brandishing a firearm in relation to the crime. He pled guilty on all counts. And then last month, November 21st, 2024, the United States District Court Judge Mark Norris sentenced him to 315 months in prison to be followed by 3 years of supervised release. There is no parole in the federal system, so this investigation was conducted by the FBI, of course, because it was multiple robberies. And the U.S. Attorney Fondren thanked Assistant United States Attorney Lorraine Craig, who prosecuted this case on the government's behalf. Y'all, this man was robbing all kinds of different places. It wasn't just hotels. He was just charged federally with the hotel cases. But if you go back through his history, you're going to see that he, the things that people have said about him publicly is that he's always stolen. Or, some people are saying now that, oh, he was really hard off for money, and he had a lot going on. But I don't know anybody, especially in this economy, that's not hard off for money. And like, I can tell you personally, for me, um, I'm living paycheck to paycheck. It's not like the podcast world isn't like, doing me wonders or anything like that. I still work a full-time job. I'm still trying to make ends meet, but I'm not out robbing hotels in the process. And that's the almost sad part of this is people do feel the need to rob these hotels and things like that. So, this 26-year-old man, based off of all the comments and all of the different things that I've counted in the endless forums about him in the last 2 years, it says like over 20, less than 30 different places that he robbed. I don't know an exact count. I want to get you that number, but I'll probably have to give it to you as an update later. Because I would have to go back and count all the comments in the forums with all the different places that they say. But the charges here were for the 3 hotels that he robbed. Moving on to our next up-to-date story. That's going to be, and this right here is actually really sad. This is going to be a story that's not in the news because of court already happening, but being in the news because it's very new. This happened last month on November 16th. So the guy that you're looking at, Miguel Diego Sandoval, we're going to call him Miguel. He's a 19-year-old man. All right. He's out in LA County. And he has been charged in the shooting deaths of 4 people as they slept in their Lancaster home that was later set to fire. So what has kind of happened is Miguel entered the premises to rob the home. So originally a home invasion. The scary part of this home invasion is while they were sleeping, he took their lives. So let me give you the names of the victims. Christine, her brother Janvi, Edwin, and Matthew. So the oldest person out of all of them was the 25-year-old Christine. Christine was pronounced dead on the scene. And so was Janvi. So Christine and her brother were pronounced dead on the scene. And then deputies had pulled Matthew Montebello, the 23-year-old. They had pulled him from the burning house. And he was later, he ended up passing the following day. Whew. And then for the last victim, which would have been Garcia, Garcia was also pronounced dead at the scene. So the only person that actually made it out was Matthew, and then he died the following day in the hospital. So why'd Miguel do it? There are a lot of questions with that. So let me tell you what we know. And then we can all kind of speculate a little bit about why he did it. And then we can also speculate a little bit more about opinions. And we can see how things progress in the news. So the charges for Miguel included special circumstance allegations of murder while lying in wait and multiple murders, along with allegations that he used a gun. He's also facing one felony count of each first-degree residential burglary and a person present and arson of an inhabited structure. The shooting was reported Saturday in LA. Firefighters responded to the home about 1:30 in the morning to knock the fire down. That's when they found the 3 already deceased, and the deputies pulled the 4th victim from the burning house. And this was on the 44,500 block of North Tabler Avenue near East Avenue J and Chandler Way. Miguel allegedly set the home on fire in an effort to cover up the burglary and the shootings. He's accused of burglarizing the home while the residents were sleeping and then shooting them before setting the fire. He was arrested on November 21st. He is due for arraignment on January 27th. So again, that's going to be about 6 weeks from now. So over the next 6 weeks, of course, they're going to gather as much information as they can. Now, let me say this. Personal opinion. Miguel's been in before. Miguel knew those people. And that's just my personal opinion. Because I don't know anyone that would choose a random house to rob. People rob houses that they think have things. So he either had been in that house, or he knew someone that lived in that house and wanted some of the things they had. There's no way he just randomly chose that house out of every house on the block, and there just happened to be people there, and he happened to have a gun, and he was able to shoot them and able to set fire to the... This was planned. He came prepared. He brought a gun. He brought whatever he needed to light the place on fire. Miguel knew someone in that house, and it's really sad that for whatever reason, this is the way he chose to betray whatever trust had been built amongst them. Now, there are multiple levels to this. You know, maybe he didn't actually meet them. Maybe he was stalking one of them. You know, maybe Miguel was interested in the female Christine, and he stalked her for months before, and then finally thought he had his chance until he realized that multiple men were in the home also, and that maybe he wouldn't be able to. Maybe he has a mental health problem. You know, there are so many... I can't say enough how, again, all of these are just allegations and opinions from me, and that I don't know anything about Miguel or his situation or anything going on. What I can tell you is he doesn't look at all sad. He doesn't look at all torn apart that he was caught. He just looks like he's there. And he looks cold. I don't have a lot of background info on Miguel. However, I did find in a few articles where they state there was another female present in the home, and that she's the one that called 911 as the fire was starting, saying that there was a fire starting and that multiple people had been shot within the home. And without giving names, there's also information stating that Miguel did date someone at one point in this house. So with those 2 tidbits of information, you know, now your theories go a little bit further. So if he's an ex-boyfriend, clearly he wasn't stable, which is probably how he became an ex. And this is not only sad for all of these individuals and all of these individuals' families. You know, these were people's children and siblings and friends. But this now becomes a situation where, at what point do we start giving people orders of protection that want them? We speak multiple times about how often murders happen between exes. And Miguel's situation is no different. Was he jaded because of the breakup? Was he jaded because... Did he break in because there was something in the house that he thought belonged to him? Or even a person that he thought belonged to him? I personally feel, again, like my original statement said, and maybe I came across that conclusion because I had a little more information than y'all did when I first started digging and coming up with my opinions, but I feel like he's been in that home. I feel like he knew where things were and that he thought that if he went in there with a gun, he could get it. I also feel like he realized that, and this is what makes me think that the female that they're not releasing the name of that was also in the home is his ex-girlfriend, because she states that she hid in the home as soon as she heard the first, inkling that someone was trying to break in. That makes me feel like he was after her, and when he couldn't find her, he started shooting people, which is a really, really sad story to tell, but a truth nonetheless. So, with that being said, of course, prayers go out to all of the people who lost their lives and the young woman who is now going to have to deal with this happening and the trauma from it, and probably appear in court. So we will continue to follow the story of Miguel, and hopefully eventually all the information about exactly what happened and the motive behind what happened come out. So just keep your ears out for everything going on with Miguel, and of course y'all know we will always keep you updated as we can here, because that's what we do. Now, our last story, I want to say that a lot of you will probably know about. It's about a dentist, all right, and this dentist's name, I wonder how many of y'all recognize. Let's see. Anybody jump in the comments and say it now? Go ahead. I'll give you a second before I release his name. Go ahead and jump in the comments and throw his name up under there if you think you know what it is. This is a Colorado dentist, all right, who has recently gotten 2 new charges filed against him. So this former dentist, Mr. James Tolliver Craig, has 2 new charges filed against him not related to the murder of his wife by poison. So I'm actually here to discuss just him as a person. So he is back in the news. If anyone remembers when he killed his wife with poison, allegedly, and also attempted to murder a detective that was investigating that case. So he was hit with 2 new charges that were filed against him last Friday. The Friday before last, which is why he is back in the news and back on the radar, and we're talking about him again, for solicitation to commit murder and solicitation to commit perjury. After days of speculation regarding these new charges, Aurora, Colorado police spokesperson Joe Moylan confirmed the intended victim related to these charges was an Aurora police detective. James was already facing trial for the death of his wife, Angela Craig, who was 43 when she passed in March of 2023. They were married for 23 years and they had 6 children. And I'm not sure if everyone knows that case. We'll get to a little bit of information about it. So the trial had been set up to begin just 1 day prior to these new charges, which was November 14th. But the trial had already been delayed because Craig's attorney withdrew. His name was Harvey Steinberg, and he just withdrew himself from the case. He was like, nope, I don't want to do it no more. And I don't blame him, because with the new information coming out, So as reported, Steinberg's reason for withdrawing was twofold. The client persists in a course of action involving the lawyer's services that the lawyer reasonably believes is criminal or fraudulent, and the client insists upon taking action with the lawyer considered repugnant or with the lawyer has a fundamental disagreement. So James was also previously charged with attempting to interfere with an ongoing investigation against him, with prosecutors alleging he smuggled a letter out of jail with an inmate bonded out by one of the adult daughters, asking her to fake a video of Angela asking James to get poisons for her. Angela's death was the result of poisoning from a combination of cyanide and tetrahydroxylene, which is commonly found in like over-the-counter eye drops. But it was put into her protein shakes, according to the coroner's report. Police have called the alleged plot to kill his wife a heinous, complex, and calculated murder. Prosecutors have detailed additional alleged attempts by James to circumvent their investigation, like asking a different inmate to plant fake journal entries in his home to suggest that Angela may have committed suicide. That inmate declined and reported Craig. So that kind of right there, he's already sitting in jail for murdering his wife. Well, allegedly murdering his wife. And then he's asking people, other inmates who are getting out, to do stuff for him. James previously had pled not guilty to first-degree murder and solicitation to commit, tampering with physical evidence in relation to attempt to have the false journal entries placed in the family home. In another instance, court documents allege that James had asked another inmate to seek out attractive women who would be willing to lie on the stand and say they'd been engaged in an affair with James, and that after Angela found out about these affairs, they'd refuse to help her frame him. Y'all, he just kept trying. So let's talk a little bit about the murder of Angela Craig, okay? Because that's where all this started. James was first arrested in March of 2023 at the age of 45, after the death of his wife, Angela. Per a press release from the Aurora police, he was accused of committing a heinous, complex, calculated murder after his wife, Angela, died in the hospital following multiple trips for care in a short period of time. The Daily Beast, I'm not sure if any of y'all know that magazine, but they obtained James' arrest affidavit, which revealed details about the investigation, including alleged text messages between James and his wife, allegations of an affair, as well as some very suspicious internet searches and online orders. According to the documents, Angela first became sick on March 6th. She went to the hospital and was released before she was admitted and released again from the 9th to the 14th. She returned again on the 15th with severe headache and dizziness and had a seizure. She began to rapidly decline mentally. She was then placed on a ventilator, declared brain dead, and was taken off life support on March 17th. At that point, authorities started to dig into Angela's husband, James, after a business partner of his from the same dental group told one of the attending nurses about his suspicion that Angela was possibly the victim of poisoning. He claimed that James recently ordered potassium cyanide for their dental practice, but there was no medical reason or purpose to order it. The business partner also said James admitted to having marital problems with his wife. When that partner told that nurse, she then reported the suspicions to the police immediately. The business partner had said that James confronted him over whether he said anything to the hospital staff, with the man saying he was aware of the package that James had ordered. James, however, allegedly claimed the package was for a ring for Angela he was hoping to surprise her with. He could see what you ordered. You know what I mean? So after obtaining a search warrant, authorities discovered a new email address under James's Google account where they found internet searches from the month before Angela's death for things like how many grams of pure arsenic will kill a human? Is arsenic detectable in an autopsy? Top 5 undetectable poisons that show no signs of foul play. And how to make poison. This account also reportedly linked to records for potassium cyanide delivery to the office on March 13th and arsenic delivery to his home on March 4th, 2 days before Angela's first hospitalization, and orders for oleander. Text messages also showed allegation exchanges between James and Angela, including one on March 6th in which she thanked him for making her a shake before she later said, "I feel drugged." Man, this guy thought of everything, didn't he? Huh. Okay, so on top of this, investigators say they found intimate emails between James and another woman who allegedly had visited him while his wife was in the hospital sick. Angela's sister reported to the police that he had had multiple affairs, and that Angela told her previously that she believed that he drugged her. She also claims that James said he would not allow hospital staff to conduct an autopsy on Angela, adding that if doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with her when she was alive, he wasn't going to let them poke her anymore while she was dead, which was his nice way to try to cover up an autopsy. Based on the totality of the investigation, James has shown the planning and intent to end his wife's life. By searching for ways to kill someone undetected, the poisons he looked up, the poisons he ordered, providing her poisons that aligned with her hospitalization symptoms, and he was already working on starting a new life with another woman. James was arrested shortly after the decision was made to take Angela off of life support. He is next scheduled to appear in court with the new lawyer December 16th of this month. So, y'all, he is going to be back in court this month. And those new charges are coming into play now because, after he killed his wife and got put in jail, he then tried to convince people in jail to threaten or take this police officer's life, where he has now accrued new charges for. So this is one of those things, where sometimes people just don't know when to stop. And it's not our job to teach someone to stop. It's not our job to, make them stop. It's our job as people to catch them in the act. This is just one of the few stories that are going on right now. And this is kind of like a November 2024 wrap up of what's the biggest news stories in the news. Now, mind you, we know there's a couple more. Pay attention this month. I'm sure we'll drop them. But I wanted to kind of give y'all a roundabout information of different stories we'll give you updates on in the future. And I wanted to make sure that y'all kind of knew what happened in November 2024 in the true crime world. And that way we have the first big stories about them. And, someday we'll do whole episodes on these people because we'll have all the information, motives, and everything. Until then, we're just kind of left in a situation where we have to do whatever it is we can do to make the best out of the information provided. And that's what we'll do on these Into No shows. I look forward to seeing y'all next week. Y'all have a great first week of December.
So grab a seat and join the fun. In lieu of murder, we're number one.